WNBA ownership just got real uncomfortable, and Magic Johnson is at the center of it. Because when one of the most respected businessmen in all of sports pauses his billion-dollar empire just to call out reporters, you know somebody messed up. What's going on, Her Hoops family? Because today we're talking about a moment that sent shockwaves through the WNBA media space. A Forbes valuation drops, numbers start flying, headlines start celebrating, and suddenly the narrative becomes WNBA teams are worth hundreds of millions. Sounds good, looks good.
WNBA owner is calling out reporters for falsifying pretty much profits made and teams' value in the recent Forbes article. We all know a lot about this owner. Guys, for this one here, we got to go all the way to LA. Let's get it. Let's go. Well, we found ourselves in a little bit of a Charlotte's Web, man. This time it's regarding WNBA ownership.
But according to Magic Johnson, it's not the full truth. And here's where the tension explodes. At the exact same time, WNBA players are deep in CBA negotiations, arguing revenue splits, league growth, and financial transparency. Forbes releases an article claiming the Los Angeles Sparks are worth $235 million. Not only that, but they misidentify the ownership structure entirely. And Magic Johnson? He didn't whisper, he didn't dodge, he went straight to X and fact-checked the entire report.
Over this whole CBA value and stuff like that. So Forbes has been being nosy and trying to lie about the value of certain WNBA teams. Now, with that being said, we know that the value of the team, the revenue sharing, and all that stuff playing a factor in the CBA. Well, Magic Johnson took time out of his day to pretty much call out reporters for falsifying and lying about the value of his Los Angeles Sparks.
Magic isn't just an NBA legend. He's a business shark. Real estate, insurance, media, sports franchises. This is a man who understands valuations at a level most reporters never will. So when Forbes casually drops inflated numbers and sloppy ownership details, Magic reads it as more than a mistake. He reads it as misinformation with consequences. Because let's be honest, these numbers don't exist in a vacuum. They shape public perception. They influence negotiations. They create talking points used against owners and players.
I've been telling y'all this. So a lot of people been saying that the owners is lying and all this and that. Now, Shaq is the owner. Magic Johnson is the owner, and I believe Tom Brady owned the team too. I believe Tom Brady owned the Aces. But let's read this. It says Magic Johnson fact checks WNBA ownership at the $235 million news. What damn There's a WNBA team worth 200-some million. Let me look this up real quick, bro. Because
so when the media says WNBA teams are booming, but insiders know most franchises are still operating in the red, somebody's lying, or at the very least, somebody's spinning. And that's the real conflict here. Is the WNBA finally exploding financially, or are valuations being dressed up to sell a future that hasn't fully arrived yet? Magic Johnson stepping in wasn't accidental. It was deliberate, and it was a warning. Because when billionaires start correcting journalists publicly,
most expensive, my bad, WNBA team. Let's see here. Wow, said the Golden State Valkyries is valued at $500 million in mid. You want to know why? Damn, now that I think about it, because they're a brand new team, bro. That's why they're trying to get these new teams. So the Indiana Fever is actually valued at $335 million. Simply because of Caitlin Clark.
It usually means the narrative has gone too far. And trust me, we're just getting started. To understand why Magic Johnson's response hit so hard, you've got to look at the moment the WNBA is standing in right now. This league isn't just playing basketball, it's negotiating its future. The current collective bargaining agreement talks have put money under a microscope. Revenue sharing, team valuations, ownership transparency. Every dollar matters. Every headline matters. And that's exactly why the Forbes article landed like gasoline on an open flame.
So the New York Liberty at 420, the Aces at 310, and the Phoenix Mercury is at $300 million. It's stated the WNBA overall valuation has exploded, with the average franchise's value nearly to $269 million by mid-2025, demonstrating a booming market and strong investor interest in women's professional basketball. This was in the middle of 2025. Y'all know what I say, man.
Forbes didn't just say the WNBA was growing. They put a number on it. According to their report, the average WNBA franchise is now valued at roughly $269 million, with teams like the New York Liberty crossing $400 million, the Indiana Fever skyrocketing past $300 million, and the Los Angeles Sparks sitting at $235 million. On paper, that's explosive growth. But here's the problem. Valuations aren't profits. A team can be valuable and still lose money every single year, and historically, that's been the reality for most of the WNBA. Many franchises have survived on NBA subsidies, ownership patience, and long-term vision rather than immediate profitability. So when Forbes paints a picture of booming wealth, it creates a disconnect. Fans start asking, if teams are worth this much, why are players fighting so hard for revenue? Meanwhile, owners get painted as villains hoarding money that supposedly exists. That's where Magic Johnson steps in. Because Forbes didn't just inflate the conversation, they got basic facts wrong. They listed Eric Holman as the owner of the Los Angeles Sparks. That's incorrect. The majority owner is Mark Walter, with partners that include Magic Johnson himself, Billie Jean King, and others. Holman isn't the owner. He's the executive managing operations. That distinction matters. Ownership structure defines control, revenue responsibility, and long-term risk. And when a major outlet blurs that line, it weakens trust in the entire report. Magic's response wasn't emotional. It was surgical. A clean correction, but one loaded with subtext. If you can't get the ownership right, why should we blindly accept the valuation? And that's what made this moment bigger than one tweet. This wasn't Magic denying growth. It wasn't him downplaying women's sports. It was him saying, get the facts straight, especially when the stakes are this high. Because right now, the WNBA isn't just fighting for respect on the court, it's fighting for credibility off of it. And that's where things start to get messy. Now let's slow this down, because this is where most fans get misled. When Forbes drops a valuation, people immediately assume that money is sitting in a bank account somewhere. Like the Sparks can just crack open a vault and hand out raises. That's not how this works, at all. A team valuation is not cash flow, it's not profit, it's not even revenue. It's a projection, built on future potential, market size, brand power, media rights expectations, and what someone might pay years down the road. Step 1. Market location. Los Angeles, New York, Las Vegas. These cities inflate valuations automatically. Media exposure alone adds zeros. The Sparks aren't worth $235 million because they're printing money. They're worth that number because they sit in the second largest media market in America. Step 2. Ownership credibility. When billionaires like Mark Walter and Magic Johnson are attached to a franchise, the perceived stability skyrockets. Investors don't buy basketball teams for annual profit. They buy leverage, branding, and future equity. Magic's name alone boosts confidence. Step 3. League momentum. The Caitlin Clark effect. Expansion teams like the Valkyries. Increased attendance. New TV conversations. The WNBA feels hot right now, and valuation models feed off momentum, not balance sheets. But here's the catch nobody likes to talk about. Most WNBA teams still operate at a loss. That hasn't magically disappeared. Ticket sales help, sponsorships help, but operational costs, travel, staffing, and marketing still outweigh revenue for many franchises. Valuations are betting on what the league will be, not what it currently is. And that's why Magic's correction matters. Because if the public believes teams are already wildly profitable, it creates pressure during CBA talks that doesn't reflect reality. It turns a complex financial ecosystem into a soundbite. And once soundbites take over, truth gets buried. So no, Magic Johnson wasn't backtracking. He wasn't denying growth. He was calling out lazy reporting that blurred ownership, hype, and hard math into one glossy headline. And when the numbers don't line up with lived reality, somebody with credibility is going to speak up. especially someone who's actually writing the checks. Here's where the conversation turns uncomfortable, because both sides can't be right at the same time. On one hand, the media is screaming that the WNBA is booming, valuations soaring, billionaire owners lining up, expansion fees climbing into the stratosphere. Headlines make it sound like the league just flipped a financial switch overnight. But on the other hand, players are still fighting for better revenue splits, teams are still cutting costs, owners are still absorbing losses year after year, and suddenly fans are asking, if everything is so profitable, why is everyone still arguing about money? That contradiction is the pressure point. Because when Forbes says the Sparks are worth $235 million, the implication is clear. The league has arrived. And if the league has arrived, then ownership must be holding back. That's the narrative that quietly creeps into CBA discussions, social media debates, and locker room conversations. Magic Johnson saw that coming. And that's why he shut it down early. He didn't challenge the growth story, he challenged the presentation. The problem isn't optimism. The problem is selling projections as proof. When journalists blur the line between future potential and present reality, they create expectations that nobody can actually meet yet. And the players feel it. They hear the numbers and wonder why their revenue share doesn't reflect them. Meanwhile, owners look at their books and see red ink, not gold bars. That's how mistrust grows. Not from bad intentions, but from distorted information. And let's be real, Magic Johnson isn't some out-of-touch executive. This is a man who lived through NBA labor battles. He understands how narratives shape negotiations. He knows that once a number goes viral, it becomes truth, even if it lacks context. That's why his correction wasn't just about ownership credit. It was about control of the story. Because if the media gets to define success before the financial foundation is stable, the league risks tearing itself apart internally. Players versus owners, perception versus reality. And the scariest part? The WNBA is actually growing, but growth without clarity can be just as dangerous as stagnation. Magic Johnson stepping in wasn't defensive, it was preventative. To really understand why Magic Johnson wasn't alarmed, and why he wasn't celebrating either, you have to understand how owners like him actually think. Because billionaire investors don't buy WNBA teams for short-term profit, they buy positioning. Magic Johnson's portfolio tells the story. Insurance companies, real estate, media ventures, major sports franchises. None of those moves were about quick returns. They were about long-term leverage, influence, and equity growth over decades, not seasons. The WNBA fits that exact blueprint. Owning a team like the Los Angeles Sparks isn't about this year's balance sheet. It's about where women's sports are headed in 5, 10, 20 years. Media rights, sponsorship integration, global branding, cultural relevance. That's the play. But here's the part casual fans miss. When valuations rise, risk rises too. Higher valuations mean higher expectations, higher expansion fees, bigger operational pressure, and more scrutiny during labor negotiations. That's not always good for a league still stabilizing its financial core. Magic understands that balance. He's seen leagues grow too fast before. He's watched hype outpace infrastructure. And he knows that credibility matters more than headlines. That's why he corrected Forbes instead of basking in the praise. Because misreporting ownership details isn't a small error. It signals surface-level analysis. And surface-level analysis leads to surface-level conclusions about money, power, and fairness. Magic also understands optics. If the league looks too rich too fast, it risks losing sympathy, patience, and strategic flexibility. Investors want growth, yes, but they want controlled growth, sustainable growth, growth that doesn't collapse under its own hype. So when Magic speaks up, he's not defending his ego, he's protecting the runway. And that's what separates long-term owners from commentators chasing clicks. One group is thinking about what the WNBA can become. The other is chasing what sounds good today. Magic Johnson didn't go nuclear because he was angry. He went public because accuracy matters when the future is on the line. This moment with Magic Johnson isn't just about one Forbes article or one ownership correction. It's about how the WNBA is being sold to the public. Right now, women's basketball is in a fragile but powerful position. Interest is real. Attendance is rising. Stars are becoming household names. Corporate sponsors are finally paying attention. The momentum isn't fake, but it's also not finished. And that's why narrative discipline matters. When media outlets rush to declare victory, the league has arrived. Teams are worth hundreds of millions. Ownership is swimming in money. They skip steps. They jump past the grind phase and land straight in the victory lap. And culturally, that creates backlash. Fans start questioning credibility. Critics feel validated. Supporters feel confused. And players get caught in the middle, negotiating against numbers that represent potential, not cash. That's dangerous, because the WNBA doesn't need exaggerated hype, it needs trust. Trust from players that owners are negotiating in good faith. Trust from fans that growth is real, but honest. Trust from investors that the league understands its own financial reality. Magic Johnson stepping in sends a message beyond the sparks. It says, "Let's build this the right way. No shortcuts, no inflated talking points. No pretending losses don't exist yet." Ironically, correcting the narrative actually strengthens the league. It tells serious investors that this isn't a bubble driven by vibes. It's a calculated, long-term play. It tells players that transparency still matters. And it tells fans that growth doesn't have to be exaggerated to be meaningful. Women's sports don't need fairy tales. They need foundations. And moments like this, uncomfortable, public, slightly awkward, are part of building something real. Magic Johnson didn't slow the league down by speaking up. He may have saved it from believing its own press too early. So let's bring this all the way home. Magic Johnson didn't expose the WNBA. He didn't embarrass the league, and he definitely didn't deny its growth. What he did was far more important. He reminded everyone that truth matters more than hype. Because valuations without context become weapons. They get used in negotiations. They get twisted on social media. They get thrown at players, owners, and fans who are just trying to understand what's really going on. Yes, WNBA franchises are becoming more valuable. Yes, investor interest is rising. Yes, women's basketball is finally getting the attention it deserves. But growth doesn't mean the grind is over. Most teams are still building, still investing, still operating on patience, not profit. And pretending otherwise doesn't help players get paid faster. It just muddies the water. Magic Johnson stepping in wasn't about ego or control. It was about protecting the long game, making sure the league grows with credibility, not exaggeration. Making sure today's momentum doesn't turn into tomorrow's mistrust. And here's the real takeaway for fans. If you care about the WNBA, you should want accurate reporting, not just flattering headlines. You should want transparency, not numbers designed to win Twitter debates. And you should want players and owners negotiating from reality, not projections. Because sustainable growth is louder than hype. It just takes longer. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think WNBA valuations are being oversold? Or is this just the early stage of something massive? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and make sure you're subscribed to Her Hoops for more unfiltered WNBA breakdowns. Until next time, keep questioning the narrative, keep the conversation honest, and keep showing love to women's basketball. We'll be back.